hymnals. Hari Om, Hari Om. Can that microphone working now? I think so, right? Hari Om. You can hear it? Still not? Swami Bhajanananda. They say the microphone is not very. Can you, are you loud? As far as loud?
This one.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Or I don't have too much strength. I have it up, but
No.
Hari Om. Yeah, that's okay. That too much, or is that okay? All right, okay.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
What happened?
There's the static.
Maybe one of them's too. Everything's.
Because everything is so loud.
Yeah. So-
But the thing is, if I keep it, can you try now?
lower one and raise the other.
Is that okay?
Hari Om, Hari
Can you
Om,
hear?
Hari Om.
I don't hear the static now. Okay. Yeah, I did the level.
Okay, thank you, Swamiji.
You can do a little bit.
Hari Om.
Right on that. Aim for the center.
Yeah, but our microphone is better. We got special microphones for this, but
Maybe, if this is an old one, maybe we need a new one. But sure is good.
yeah, thank you. Daivāl.
Are these?
No, I don't know. From just last week. You can keep in case people come. You can give people verses. Om Mangalam Gurudevaya Devya Matriksha Mangalam Mangalam Bhakta Vrindebhyo Sarva Lokaya Mangalam Om Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharma Sarupine Avatar Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Mangalam Om Sarashiva Samarambam Shankaracharamajdamam Ashvarachara Prayantam Vande Gurum Paramparam Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deva Maheshwara Guru Deva Param Brahman Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Om Bhadrakali Namo Nityam Saraswati Namo Namaha Viraviranga Vedanta Vejastane Vacha Sri Ganesha Shara Gurubhyo Namah Om. So we'll be reading today from some verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So as per tradition, there's a mantra, the first mantra of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we traditionally chant. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We'll need practice on that one. So we're continuing in our series. What's our series? Principles of Bhakti Yoga. And the first three discussions were first was on the Srimad Bhagavatam, the pillars of Dharma, or the four legs of Dharma. Anybody remember what those are?
Purity, compassion,
Truth, and austerity, right? So then the following week we discussed the same topic, covering those same basic topics, but on the principle of like the foundations of spiritual life, kind of like and the nature of spiritual discipline. And so we're talking a lot about these disciplines in a series on Bhakti Yoga, on devotion, on love of God, and sometimes it seemed that love and so much discipline doesn't always match, right? Of course, we're arguing, not us arguing. The Srimad Bhagavatam itself starts strong. It's stated, and again, the verses today will make similar prerequisites that all spiritual practices require a foundation, a moral foundation, a foundation of spiritual disciplines, right? And we use that example of if you build a house build a building without a foundation, you build an accident, right? But there's many examples of great saints. Actually, usually our heroes, the Bhakti heroes. You don't hear much about their spiritual disciplines, right? Maybe they're so spiritually advanced, their devotion awoke in them, right? Even from birth or spontaneously, without the need of without the preliminary needs of spiritual discipline. One great example that Sri Ramakrishna gives again and again. Swami Bhajanananda was pointing out that every time Sri Ramakrishna is mentioning the highest states of bhakti, called raga bhakti, like that, he always uses Prahlad as the example. Because Prahlad, you know the story of Prahlad Nishingadev, Prahlad Maharaj, he was born, actually not born, he was a saint in the mother's womb, right? Even his name means extreme joy, right? Prahlada, so extreme bliss. And so his mother, the story goes, she was married to a great demon, Hiranyakashipu, one of the great tyrants of the ancient worlds, right? Greater than the tyrants of this world, or the tyrants of the ancient world, the Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So his wife was, she was stolen. It's a little complicated story, but anyways, his son, was raised while she was in his mother's womb, was in an ashram of a sage, and hearing in that atmosphere of the holy ashram, the discipline of that ashram, the continuous chanting of the holy name, right? The Vedic mantras, the yagyas, the prasadam, the satsangs, right? Even in his mother's womb, he was hearing all these things. He heard the holy name like this. So it says that hearing God's name purely, right, that's sufficient, right? Or thinking of God, that's sufficient. Actually, every name of God is a full darshan if we hear it purely. And so he was very pure, and so even before his birth, he was a Mahabhagavat, a great devotee, a perfect devotee. And so even as a child, right, he was sent to demon school, right? If interested, I've given, I think, 20 talks on this story. In the podcast, they're all there. Very long. It goes over many, many chapters. So I won't tell all the whole story again. But he even as a child, he was sent to demon school. But he told his classmates, like, oh, the purpose of life is to love God, right? And we're not this body, right? And we should be very careful not to. Actually, he's telling 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old children, right, elementary school children, says already so much of your life has been wasted, right? We should take our life very seriously, right? Because you can develop love of God even in the womb. That's like one day after the womb, you already wasted one day of your life, right? No guarantee, right? And he's telling his children, his childhood friends, it's like most of our life is going to be spent as children, is playing, right? Not developing devotion, right? And then we'll grow up a little bit, and we'll go to school, and then our life will be studying, and then we'll get married, and we'll have to go to work, and we'll raise our children. Our life will be spent working, right? And then we'll get so old and so tired, our life will be spent sick, right? In medicines, right? And then the little time we have left, right? Like in a day, 8, 9 hours spent sleeping, or another 8, 9 hours spent working, right? You know, how many hours, how much is left for spiritual life? And he began to analyze, it's very small, right? This life is short, and the chance for serious spiritual practice is small, right? He's telling his friends, don't waste this, right? Then he tells if we waste it, what happens? We die. And what happens when we die? Our karmas lead to rebirth. And again, it starts all over again. Maybe there's a few minutes here and there. We have a Saturday satsang at Kali Mandir, right? We put a little bit of spirit, we ingest a little bit, but there's not much time. So he was born already full of devotion, and such messengers are like, don't waste. This is very important, right? Don't waste a second, right? He told them, actually, I remember Badaharidas and Kosharupa, the Laguna Beach Hare Krishna temple, and they used to, Mother Kosharupa used to tell me, paraphrasing Prahlad Maharaj, he says, if you don't realize what it means to be reborn again, right? It means junior high school all over again, right? If junior high school is not an impetus to want liberation from birth and death, you know. So it's very serious. So Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad and saints like him were born with spontaneous devotion, right? So maybe not all of us are born in our mother's womb with spontaneous devotion, right? So if we have some devotion, some spiritual interest, some interest in spiritual realization, some attraction to God, right? At least I think if we don't have overwhelming attraction to God, I think all of us have at least an attraction to God, right? We want God. Sri Ramakrishna even said, oh, you have to have longing for Bhagavan, or longing for Mother. And somebody says, well, what if you don't have longing? Well, then pray for longing, right? We should want God, right? You know, that's what Prahlad is telling. We should want God, right? Prahlad wanted God, so he knew what he was talking about, right? So we have some, those of us who don't have overwhelming, spontaneous, ecstatic, and overwhelming devotion to Ma, right? What do? We have some devotion, right? And for that, we know we have some goal. We have some goal of union or of communion, right? We wanting to experience and know and be intimate with the divine. How to do it, right? So we end up using the topic. What's our topic tonight? It was bhakti and the path, and the yogic discipline. I think that was the title we gave: bhakti and yogic discipline, right? So within bhakti, it has nothing to do with yogic discipline, right? It's a tendency of the heart. Is there a discipline to fall in love with somebody? You either fall in love with them or you don't. You're in love with them or you don't, or you fall in love with them or you don't, right? You know, it's like, but sometimes there is a discipline, right? Get to know them. Right, you know, it's like, you know, Swami Chaitanya uses the Revered Swami Chaitanya, he uses example, definitely a little antiquated example, but still, it's like with the arranged marriage in India, right? The old tradition is like, so we found you a very handsome and a boy, and the girl's like, never met the boy. How am I supposed to love a boy I've never met? Right? Says, did I mention he's very handsome? Like, is he? Right, and he's rich. Really? Right, you know, like, and he's very smart, and he's very kind, right? You know, and so you start enumerating the qualities. So thinking about those things, maybe she doesn't know him yet, but a desire to know him comes, right? What is it? The desire to desire God, pray for longing, right? You know, so there are practices that help us, right? Because the scripture says, and this is, I mean, again and again, that God is so lovable that if you know her, if you know him, you cannot help but fall in love, right? You know, it's like, so the sage is like going, I remember there was an old SNL skit, get to know me, you remember this? I don't know, the John Love, like, get to know him, get to know her, right? And maybe something will happen. So a lot of the spiritual disciplines, they're kind of in two categories. They're like yamas, niyamas, right? You know, we've been talking about disciplines, right? There's some that are a couple weeks ago I mentioned a quote from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vaishnava text, by the disciples of Sri Chaitanya, where he summarizes. Actually, it's quoting. Actually, I take it back. It's in that text, but he's quoting Vishnu Purana. I think Skanda Purana or Vishnu Purana, and there it says actually there's only two rules. There's one yama and one niyama. One restriction and one practice. One thing to do. One is never the yama is never forget Vishnu, right? And the niyama is always remember Vishnu. Right? We say like always remember God, never forget God. And he says all the other spiritual disciplines, all the other yama niyamas, all the other rules and regulations, all the other advice, Guru giving advice, Scripture giving advice, our friends giving advice, our own minds could give advice, should be servants of these two rules. That means that they have to serve these two functions. Right? What are we doing? What are we not doing? What are we controlling? What are we engaging? Things that help us remember God. Things should be engaged in. Right, and things that make us forget God should be avoided. And so we'll get to certain texts, but there are texts that just literally describe, like, what are the like one should actually analyze. Right, you can do this very consciously. It's like, is this beneficial for my spiritual life? Right, that you can just like, sometimes a bold answer, a bold question, you get a clear answer. Sometimes we don't ask bold questions, so because we don't want a clear answer, right, But anyway, so that's yamas niyamas, right? And so even this topic of nama niyamas, then was like, oh, that's like now we're bringing like all the, but what's the most famous in the modern world, in the modern Western world, the modern yogi Western world? We know yamas niyamas for Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, right? We mentioned a few weeks ago that they're all over the place in every text. Right, they mention even the term yama niyama and the classical list of 10 or 5 of 10 or 20, right, are even in Upanishads, right? They're in various different texts, right? Not just Patanjali's become the most famous because the book is most famous, right? But he's not. It's not the earliest. But this idea of yama niyama, then what else comes in his eightfold system? Yama niyama, asana, pranayama. Then pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, right? That list, of course, we get that famous list in Patanjali, right? We may know it because of that, but it's listed in many other texts that are in the category of Yoga Shastra, right? There's Upanishad, the Dattatreya Upanishad gives the same list, right? And Dattatreya is teaching it, not Patanjali is teaching it. Lists like this, right? So that classic yogic thing, it's like, how did that, but okay, I can understand never always remember God, never forget God, but then it becomes, what is it, satya, himsam, brahmacharya, you start listing these specific things. Like, if we really think about it, or kind of even a little bit think about it, not even really think about it, you can see these things very likely. The ancient world saw them, the ancient yogis saw them. These are things that could stop us from remembering Vishnu. And help us to remember Vishnu. So these are the big questions. Fine. So actually, I was going to put this later, but I think maybe this is a good time. Chaitanya handed me some verses. So like if you get to know if the spontaneous devotion, that spontaneous devotion or authentic devotion or natural devotion, right, has various names in the scriptures, right? Sri Ramakrishna very often used a very well known Vaishnava term, raga bhakti, right? This is also there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Chaitanya tradition. It says that Lord Chaitanya came to teach raga marga bhakti, to teach the path of raga bhakti, right? And to experience it and to teach that. And so Sri Ramakrishna, I would say, was definitely experiencing it and teaching it, right? Raga bhakti. And other names for raga bhakti in other texts sometimes is mukhya bhakti. Mukhya bhakti means like the topmost and liberated bhakti. It also is nirgun bhakti, which is beyond the gunas. Para bhakti, supreme devotion. Right, so different names like that. Raga bhakti is the one that Sri Ramakrishna often uses, right, using that classic language. And the other type of bhakti, what's the other thing? The thing is like, okay, when you're ready to fall in love with him or fall in love with her, that's called raga bhakti, right? It's natural. You cannot, it's a natural tendency to fall in love with somebody, right? And God is the most lovable, so it's a most nature to love him, to love her, right? But it's the getting to know that's called Vaidhi Bhakti. That's the other term, Vaidhi Bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti means according to regulation, according to a system, systematically, right? According to practice, right? There's other names for Raga Bhakti, sadhana Bhakti. Another one is these are the spiritual practices, the sadhana aspect of our devotional practice, right? So Sri Ramakrishna says, this is from Swami Bhajananda's translation, Katamrita, book 1, chapter 147, chapter 4, section 7. Thank you. Sri Ramakrishna says, he's talking to Vijay Krishna Goswami. That conversation is really intense and uses very technical discussion, because Vijay Krishna Goswami was a descendant of Advaita Goswami, a direct disciple of Sri Chaitanya. So he, who then, in rebellious youth, joined the Brahma Samaj, and then, if you saw what he became, eventually he became a great Vaishnava saint in his own right later. But he had the language, so Sri Ramakrishna's language matches for the level of discussion. But he says, Sri Ramakrishna says, God isn't found without loving devotion. Prema Bhakti is another natural name. Another name for Prema Bhakti is Raga Bhakti. Bhagavan isn't found without pure love, prema, and pure passion, anuraga. Right? If love of God doesn't come, she can't be found. That's a very simple statement. If without pure passion, right? Pure love, pure passion, right? Prema Bhakti, anuraga, then she can't be found. So that's if we're trying to find her, this is a criteria, right? There's another kind of devotion, right? The statement before says that she can only be found by Prem Bhakti, by Raga Bhakti, by Anuraga Bhakti, right? So, but there's another type of devotion. That could be the type of devotion you can't find her with, right? If the only one's but it's still important. There's another kind of devotion. It's called regulated devotion, or Vaidhi Bhakti. It's where you have to do so much mantra repetition, have to fast, have to go on pilgrimage, have to perform worship and with so many items, have to make so many sacrifices. All this is Vaidhi Bhakti. By doing this again and again, gradually Raga Bhakti comes. But you can't find God as long as you don't have Raga Bhakti. So Vaidhi Bhakti, the purpose of Vaidhi Bhakti is to get Raga Bhakti. And without Raga Bhakti, and only by Raga Bhakti, can you find Bhagavan, can you find Mother, can you find her. But you can't find God as long as you don't have Raga Bhakti. Loving her is necessary. When worldly consciousness is completely gone, and the mind thinks of her with 16 annas, means 100%, right? Older Indian system, then you'll find her. Some have Raga Bhakti naturally. There are people with natural extreme devotion. They have it even from childhood. They weep for God even from childhood, just like Prahlad. Vaidhi Bhakti is like fanning oneself to get a breeze. Right? So Vaidhi Bhakti sadhana is like fanning yourself to get a breeze. Right? The fan is necessary to get the breeze. Love for God will come by repeating the mantra, by practicing austerities, by fasting. But if the southern breeze is blowing on its own, people throw the fan away. If longing and loving devotion for God come on their own, then actions like repeating a mantra and so on are given up. One can perform the prescribed rituals. Who can perform the prescribed rituals when they become drunk with loving devotion to Hari? Right? Beautiful, very beautiful Swamiji. So another, I was maybe I wrote it down. My Vedanta Dikshikar, a very famous Shaivite commentator. Let me see if I have. Maybe I don't have it. I don't remember. So he had he defines Vaidhi Bhakti is like a sick person who very weak, right? And therefore the way you make them strong is a doctor prescribes milk diet, right? Something easy to digest. So you spoon feed them milk and have milk and protein, they become strong, right? And Raga Bhakti is like a healthy person who just loves to drink milk, right? It's not medicine. It's food, it's like a longing for food. I think that's a beautiful, I've not heard this example. I just, in researching this last night. Jai Ma. Is there a song sheet for him? Okay. Shumeru. Speaking of Parabhakti. Jai Ma. So, what about all of us who need to be prescribed milk? Right. So, the last few weeks we've been a little bit on the negative side of spiritual disciplines, and because our spiritual life and our devotional life is so important, we don't want to mess it up, right? So, but spiritual disciplines are not just don't mess up. It's like they're designed to help us focus on God, not forget God, and always remember God, right? So when we think of Raga Bhakti, I don't even think of Raga Bhakti as a yoga system. Maybe it's yoga in the definition of yoga as union, right? Perhaps like this, but for as a spiritual discipline, right? I think that then you already move into the Vaidhi, and we'll talk Vaidhi Bhakti, Pada Bhakti, and Raga Bhakti later. I'm just bringing these up now because as a background to justify some discussion on Vaidhi Bhakti practices, right? So when you think of yoga, right? Of course, we think Patanjali, but other systems that are Patanjali adjacent, perhaps, right? They're usually physical, mental, and spiritual practices that are aimed at controlling the body and the mind in order to attain a spiritual goal. Right, in Patanjali, it's Kaivalya Moksha. In Jnana Yoga, it's liberation. In Bhakti, it's usually understood as sometimes it's like it's union with God or communion with God. Maybe it's union, or at least the I think very sophisticated presentations of bhakti from very inspiring saints. They don't even talk about union with God. They talk about love of God is itself the goal. Loving God is itself the goal, right? And when you love somebody, then your relationship will become whatever it becomes, whether it's union, communion, fighting, whatever it is. All the it's like you have 18,000 verses Bhagavatam describing all kinds of tumultuous relationships of the love life of the absolute, So what it really is, loving God is a goal. So in yogic systems control disciplines for the mind, the body, in order to focus, in order to attain some sort of freedom from distraction, freedom from rebirth, and attainment of our spiritual goal. We hear a lot that sometimes overused, like, yoga means union. It does actually also mean union, right? It does seem to be derived from a word, yuj, which has a similar meaning to the English word yoke. Like you yoke, what do you yoke? You yoke animals to a plow, right? I guess that's how we use yoke. We get yogurt from that, really? How is that? Okay. What are you yoking to?
I don't know what the binding of
Maybe some sort of binding or mixture, union or something.
I'm ChatGPTing that.
That's good. So early on, it probably had the meaning of yoking in, tying in, bringing in, that type of thing, and then through use, it seems later uses of the term yoga as yoke becomes like linking, or linking up, or connecting the mind. Even the Gita uses there's we call the Swami Chaitanya says the most important verses of the Gita. You know what they are? It's easy to remember. It's like chapter 10, 9, 10, 11. So 10, 9, 10, 11, right? It's really beautiful verses, but it says, I don't have my Gita here, but Machita, what are the words? Machita Gita. I know the verse, I don't remember that. It is the thoughts of my devotees. Well, this is a good discipline right here. The thoughts of my devotees dwell in me, right? So that's it should be natural, and they get the thoughts of my devotees dwell in me, and they derive great satisfaction by talking about me and enlightening each other about me. They talk about me. Their mind and sense, their life and their prana, their life and soul, right? Their mind and their life are immersed in me, and they get joy in talking about me with each other, right? So Swami Chaitanya says that's what we have. What do we have to do? Put your mind and life in God and talk about her, right? You know, you have the verses, Swamiji? You have no. I gave away my Gita the other day. The Gita. I have another copy, but the copy I had a copy here. I gave that copy away a few days ago. But then Krishna says that to such a person, I dwelling with him, he says, Buddhi Yogam, I connect their intellect to me, right, and illuminate them with the shining lamp of knowledge, right. So that's what Swami Chaitanya says. What do we have to do, and what God will do? We think of God, and God, that thought is yoga, connects us to God, and then with that connection, I dwelling within illuminate them from within, the shining lamp of knowledge, something like that. You can look it up. It's a good verses. We always say you should memorize these verses, and here's me not memorizing, demonstrating not memorizing the verses. But, yeah, you found them. Did I get it right? Okay. Yeah. So to connect like this. So in Patanjali, you know, you have the famous opening definition. What is it? Yogas citta vritti nirodha, right? Yoga is the stilling or the cessation of the vrittis in the mind, right? So that's not an easy one, right? To still the vibrations in the mind. And then it says, why is that? Then the seer is established in its own essential nature. You know that the Malini Vijayatotara Tantra, a very important non-dualistic Kashmiri sect text, right? The Malini says, yoga is said to be oneness of one entity with another. So when one thing is connected to the other, or it becomes almost the other, that's called yoga. Right? And then some scholarly looking at academic definitions across traditions. Yoga is a more traditional sense of the term, has been practiced throughout South Asia and beyond, and involves a multitude of techniques leading to spiritual and ethical purification. Spiritual and ethical purification. Any form of spiritual discipline aimed at gaining control of the mind with the ultimate aim of attaining liberation. So these are different methods to attain the goal, controlling the mind like this. So that's yoga. Then we can think, okay, what is bhakti? Bhakti is not an easy thing to define, but there is a famous definition. It's like we have the Yoga Sutra that defines, I just gave him one line, what is it, yoga... What is it? Yoga chitta vritti nirodha, right? Yoga is the stilling of the vrittis of the mind, right? In the Narada Bhakti Sutra, it also gives a definition. It gives many definitions of, it quotes a bunch of other people's definitions of bhakti, and then gives his definition. But it starts strong. It also starts. Verse 2. Sat tasmin parama prema rupa. Tat tasmin, its nature, what is its nature? Parama prema rupa, right? So it says parama prema. Its nature is supreme love for this. Here, this is God, right? It's talking very abstract philosophical points. So it's using very impersonal language, or not specific language, but it's supreme love for God. That is bhakti, right? Parama means supreme. It means highest. But it also means other. right? So I can also say, also the word for enemy in the Bhagavatam, many places, padama, because the other. An enemy is something that's very much other than you, right? And your desires and your safety is more important than the other's safety and their desires. So here it says the commentaries have given both meanings, both the supreme, but it's love for God, but different than we think. We all know, I really do hope that all of you know love, right? But that's not it, right? Patanjali is saying the thing we know about love, that's not bhakti, right? Bhakti has to be for Bhagavan. Actually, Swami Vivekananda makes a very big, his Bhakti Yoga, if you don't have, it's a very small book. We'll be reading parts of it as we move on. I strongly suggest, we've gone through the whole text as a group here once before. Beautiful little text. But he makes the thing that by bhakti is not just any love or any attachment. It's love for God specifically, for the divine. But so its nature is supreme love. So in his Bhakti Yoga, Swami Vivekananda, he starts beautifully. I think it's one of the great statements of devotion, one of the great opening lines of a book. It says, Bhakti Yoga is a real, genuine search after the Lord, a search beginning, continuing, and ending in love. Right. Beginning, so the end is love, but the method is also love, and the reason to do it should be love. And so a lot of this talk of all these harsh spiritual disciplines we're talking about, I hope they're being done out of love or at least for love. Because sometimes for love, we do things that aren't very nice, that we have to do, but because of love requires it, Bhakti Yoga is a real, genuine search after the Lord, a search beginning, continuing, and ending in love. One single moment of the madness of extreme love to God brings us eternal freedom. This extreme love is para-bhakti, is raga bhakti. One moment of that type of love is itself liberation. It gives us complete eternal freedom. I have whole chapters typed out here. We'll go back to that another time. So we have yoga and we have bhakti. So now we're thinking with this raga bhakti and vaidhi bhakti, something like raga vaidhi bhakti is what we would call bhakti yoga, right? I think I have a hard time thinking of bhakti as yoga, but sadhana is yoga. Bhakti sadhana, that's yoga. That's yoga, right? And so what I wanted to read today is from Kapila. This is a very beautiful section of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Those are the verses I've given you. What is it? Skanda 3. That's the verses. These verses, some of the verses I've been working. I have to admit that I've fallen behind on this project. The seminary. When we started the seminary, this project, I was writing commentary. I was doing a commentary on the 5 chapters of the Kapila Gita and the Bhagavatam. So I did a lot of the translation and then began to work on comments for the first couple chapters and then got distracted. So this is non-commented, but only translation of this section, right? Where Kapila Muni is of course we know him famously as the founder of the Sankhya system. Right, the Sankhya system of philosophy, and in the Bhagavatam, Kapila Muni, if you know anything about the Sankhya system, and the Sankhya system is a philosophical background of Patanjali's yoga system, right? It's not theistic. It's a non-theistic philosophy, and it analyzes. Sankhya means to analyze and enumerate. So, in analyze and enumerates the nature of prakriti. Specifically, right? The nature of, so when you've heard the 24 cosmic principles or evolutive prakriti. You have the first split is purusha and prakriti, right? You have the person and nature, but prakriti, and then prakriti evolves into mind, ego, and all the way down to the senses and the elements and the senses and organs of action like that, where you end up with 24 evolutes. In that Sankhya is to analyze, right? And the Sankhya system, the first mention of Sankhya is really ancient. In the Mahabharata, it mentions there's an ancient philosophy called Sankhya, right? So Mahabharata was already considered an ancient. It was described as an ancient system, right? So that means the system probably predated what we now have. The main classical text is the Sankhya Karika, kind of like that, right? Karika of Ishvara Krishna. That is his name. I'm forgetting. Anyways, you can look. We're not talking about him today, so that's right. But it's attributed. The system is attributed to the ancient sage Kapila, right? In the Bhagavatam, Kapila is an incarnation of Vishnu, and the Bhagavatam, as we know, is an extremely devotional text, right? And so one of the things historically, academically, using critical, unpopular critical analysis, right, is that this is the commenting on other schools, other important philosophical systems and practices, and just absorbing them into bhakti, right? Or it could be there's an ancient sage Kapila who originally taught the method of the yogic method and the analytical method in order to focus on Vishnu out of devotion, right? And then later, some imposter came and gave an atheistic philosophical system on it, right? I'm not going to describe which one I think is correct, but anyways, in Bhagavatam, Kapila is himself Vishnu, so it's not an atheist system. He's God, right? So he's definitely not an. I mean, he believes in himself and he encourages other people to believe in him, right? And he's teaching his mother, Devahuti, right? Who comes and says he's about to renounce the world and leave and go into the forest, and his mother, approaches him and asks for spiritual instructions, and within it, many chapters of a long conversation happens. That's it's soaked in the analysis of Sankhya, but it's also because Sankhya and Yoga are connected. It's full of yogic ideas. That's why. So it's a perfect example of bhakti and yogic disciplines. Because is using as a method for bhakti, for Vaidhi bhakti, right? The classical understanding of yoga. But then once you get to the point of meditation, we have the asana, yam, niyam, asana, pranayama, pratyahara. When you get to meditation, what do you meditate upon? Right? So what you meditate upon, I mean, in Patanjali's system, it almost doesn't matter what you meditate upon. And every object has a different effect of meditation, right? But here it does matter, right? And so he gives, I didn't translate those sections, but eventually will. Maybe we'll get to them. I'll read a sample of them. It describes the beautiful form of Vishnu, his smile, his jewelry, right? The birds singing around him, what he's dressed like, right? What his nature is, right? So he meditate on the rupa, nama, rupa, gunas of like that. That becomes the object of meditation. So we can just do that, right? But it's really hard to just do that. Otherwise, we'd be doing that, right? So those of us who are trying to love God, right? Wanting to want God, right? There are methods. The yogic methods are disciplines that we can engage in, right? So I'm just using this as an example, right? So this is from Skanda 3. This is Discourse 28, the section. śrī-bhagavān uvāca. So actually, this is my translation. It's not perfect because it's not meant for publication. It's just found it on my computer yesterday. Oh, I'll use these. So it was good. So it's not the final translation. It's still being worked on. And what I did here for my own use, and that I didn't get a word for word. I did section by section translation. So where it says, like I shall describe the authorized system of yoga, yogasya, lakṣaṇaṁ, vakṣye. Give the section is being translated. So if you're interested in looking. And I didn't give the Devanagari because it didn't fit on 3 sheets. So it would have made it 4 sheets of paper. So otherwise I given śrī-bhagavān uvāca. So Kapila it's like we've heard that before. When in Gita, Krishna says Bhagavan uvāca. So it's God speaking. Right? Swami our Guruji, Swami Omananda says places in the Mahabharata it says Krishna uvāca. Right, or Krishna speaking, right? But in the Gita, right, it says Bhagavan uvāca. Of course, Krishna is Bhagavan, but here and this is God's teaching. So here, Kapila is a rishi, he's a yogi, he's the son of Devahuti, he's many things, but he's also an incarnation of Vishnu, and he's speaking as that. So when he says "I" meditates upon me, right? He's not necessarily, oh, we should meditate on Kapila. It means on Bhagavan, on God, right? O princess, talking to his mother, I shall describe the authorized system of yoga, the practice of which, and we said Vaidhi Bhakti, the word Vidhi is there, yenaiva, vidhinā. One's mind becomes joyful and advances on the path of truth. Right. So this, I think, is a good start. What is the authorized system? Where the mind, practicing which the mind becomes joyful, and we can advance on the spiritual path of truth. So first is sva-dharmācaraṇaṁ, śaktyā. One has to perform one's own dharma, one's dharma, swa-dharma, right? With all one's strength and energy, right? So we need to be authentically us, to do our duties to our family, to our community, to our religion, according to our nature. Krishna talks about swadharma a lot in the Gita, right? What our nature is. He tells Arjuna, he says, it's like your nature will drive you to do it, right? You can't help it, right? So we have to know what our nature is and do that with full energy. Do our dharma properly with full energy. And avoid, so we should do the things appropriate to our dharma and avoid things that are adharmic, right? And avoid prohibited actions. Vidharmāc nivartanam, right? One should give up. So there you get on the last 3 talks have been about things that should be, the adharma should be carefully avoided, right? One should be satisfied with what one has through destiny. This destiny, daivāl, means it's like karma, right? We have a certain, we're getting certain things. So, of course, not everybody's satisfied with what they've received from destiny, right? And that's also fine. But that it's hard to be a yogi. This is the prerequisites, right? If you're thinking, oh, I can do better, it's like I mean, you should be healthy and happy and prosperous and safe like this, right? But if you have enough to keep the body and soul together, right? Roti and dhoti, they say, the simple food and clothing, right? Some people, by their karmas, they're born in rich families, so they have very nice food and very nice clothing. Some people have very simple clothes and clothing. But if you're interested in spiritual life, that means a material advancement is not your primary goal. That's what that verse is saying. And worship the lotus feet of self-realize. Ātmavic, the knowers of the self. Charana-arcanam. We should worship the feet of the saints, right? Perform one's duties. Avoid prohibited actions, right? Be satisfied with what's come to you, and actively worship the feet of the saints, the gurus and saints, those who are self-realized. Giving up worldly activities, grāmya-dharma-nivṛttiś. I mean, grāma means village, right? So what's going on in the village? Don't worry about that, right? Sri Ramakrishna is really intense because we're in a, of course, we're always in a difficult moment. Right now, the world's in a difficult moment. Of course, we have to look, or maybe we think we have to look. We're looking, like if we have to or not. But Sri Ramakrishna, if somebody brought a newspaper into his room, right? He'd have it removed and Ganga water sprinkled on it, right? This is worldly. These are meaning news of the world. That's called worldly, right? Interesting. I mean, we all have a different balance in how we're dealing with it. But Sri Ramakrishna, he lived these verses spontaneously, right? Giving up all worldly talk and activities, one should then develop a taste for the activities that lead to liberation. Moksha, dharma, rati, tata. So giving up the taste of worldly things, one should develop the taste of spiritual things, right? The things that lead to liberation, right? Swami Shivananda says that our pleasure centers should be japa and meditation. Right, we get pleasure in 1,000 things. He told his disciples when they were doing, in his early days of austerity at the Swargashram, before Shivananda Ashram, he wrote himself, he says, destroy all pleasure centers. Right, he says, just japa, kirtan, study, that's hard to do, but I'm giving strong because these are strong verses. One should always give up worldly activities. One should then develop a taste for spiritual activity that lead to liberation. Always eat pure food in moderation, right? And stay in a secluded and peaceful dwelling. That's not always easy. By God's grace, we live in a peaceful and beautiful dwelling. Then it's okay. So that's starting. This is like your prerequisite to be interested in spiritual life, right? Now it hits us with yamas, niyamas. Classical lists. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find texts that give different lists. I found such texts, but I will also just reading them. I think these lists is a good list. Right. Our problem is not. Anyways, yeah. We should. One should practice ahimsa, satyam, asteya, yavarta, parigraha, brahmacharam, tapasaucham, swadhyaya, purusharchanam. So we already almost the same words we've talked about last week. One should practice ahimsa, non-violence, satya, truthfulness, honesty, asteya, not stealing, right? Yavat artha parigraha, and not having only having what is necessary, means simple life, right? Only having what is necessary. Brahmacharya, sexual purity. Tapaha, austerity. Saucha, cleanliness or purity. Swadhyaya, self-study, right? And purusha archanam, and worship of the purusha, of the Supreme Person, right? So there you have a nice resetting of the yama niyama, right? One should practice nonviolence, truthfulness, not stealing, possessing only what is necessary, celibacy, austerity, cleanliness, self-study, and worship of the Supreme Person. One should practice silence, maunam, attain mastery. Now it's going deeper. Attain mastery of a proper and steady posture. Sad-asana jaya stiryam. One should have mastery or victory over. Actually, this term in Hatha Yoga they use this term asana jaya. In Patanjali we say asanas we should have proper asana. Asana jaya is when you can sit. Swami Shivananda defines it: being able to sit for 3 hours without discomfort in one seat. Right. So let's say 45 minutes. Let's try. 5 minutes. Here I am as I'm talking. I'm continually readjusting my asana. Right. So in other words, this is the equivalent of a steady posture. Even Krishna says there should be a steady posture, a steady and comfortable posture with the back, head, and neck erect on a deer skin, kushagrath, and cloth. Right, neither too high nor too low. He also starts. Even Krishna when he gives instructions on meditation, he starts with how to sit and where to sit, what to sit on, and how to sit. Right, that's the. One should. So of course, for bhakti, does it matter how you sit? This is a talk on bhakti, right? But it's bhakti and yogic practices, right, and yogic disciplines, right? So obviously, it doesn't really matter how you sit. But we don't have raga bhakti yet. Right, we're trying to control the body, control the mind, and focus it on God, right? And so, one yogi told me, a great bhakta told me, he was a yogi too. He says, you might as well have good practices. We can learn from the other yogic systems. Like when you could it doesn't matter if you're just chanting God's name. It doesn't matter if your back's straight, but have your back straight. Right, because it helps concentration. There's many things that it does. Right, prana flows better. It's like obviously it's not important. God's name is important, not your back straight. Right, but if you can have a straight back, why not have good practices? Why not benefit from the fact that thousands of years of yogis have been learning how to control the mind? We can also take advantage of their benefit. Right, if we can.
Swami Bhajanananda, one morning while all the brother monks were meditating, he criticized them. All your backs are concave. He says, straighten up your back. A concave back is a concave mind.
Yeah, because you see a lot of devotees. We're joking. They go to Mangalarati, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. It's like you can see somebody sitting up. It changes things. It's not easy, right? But we can take advantage of it. It's not all important, right? From our understanding, but of course, he's teaching bhakti as yoga, so it is important. Here it is important. One should practice silence, attain mastery of a proper and steady posture, control the breath, prana jaya, right? Control or get victory, control of the breath, or prana. Gradually withdraw the senses from their objects, right? Focus the mind on the heart. So you can see already you have pranayama, dharana, pratyahara, and dharana. It's just described differently. The same system has to be there, right? Control the breath or control the prana, right? Control the mind, control the prana. Withdraw the senses from their objects. That's pratyahara. Focus the mind on the heart. Now here we get a little. It's a where to focus is important. In bhakti, often where the heart is. Swami Vivekananda would, Sri Ramakrishna, people ask him where to concentrate. He says the scripture says the heart's a splendid place, right? And the devotees meditate on their heart, in their heart, right? Even Sri Ramakrishna would even tell people, you put your hands here to focus. That's, I find it kind of a weird. What do people see me? This looks cooler, But this is but all the pictures have a gurus like this, right? Not like this, right? But Sri Ramakrishna, because the focus on the heart, So here it says, manasa hridi, right? Put your mind, focus the mind on the heart, right? One should fix the mind in prana, manasa prana dharana. One should fix the mind in one place, ekadesha, in a chakra of the body. So actually this I will retranslate because it doesn't act as a chakra. It says in one seat or some place, right? It doesn't actually say the word chakra, But anyways, the idea is in the heart. It's just using different. I've translated one word with another Sanskrit word that's not there. That's not good practice. But anyways, it means that. So one should fix the mind in prana in one place, ekadesha, in one land, one place, right? Right, in one's own body, right? In some place, right? So he just mentioned the heart is a good place in the previous half verse, right? Right, and meditate upon the pastimes, right, of the Lord of Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha Lila Abhidhyanam. Right, you should meditate upon so here the object of meditation is a devotional object, right, on the actions of the Lord of Vaikuntha. This is a Vaishnava text. He is an incarnation of Vishnu. He's telling you to meditate on Vishnu, right? Right. So the object of meditation. So this actually would in many devotional texts you hear it says japa and dhyana, japa and meditation, and often when you see that connection in that category of text, that means actually saying God's name and meditating on the form. Dhyana there usually means like this type of dhyana, meditate on the form of the deity. Of course, in the devotional tradition it says that you can meditate on the form, on the name, on the guna, the qualities, on the lila, on the desha, on the land. You can, all these aspects of can be objects of meditation. But here it's describing. And thus become absorbed in the self. Samadhanam, tapa, atmana. Then one becomes completely absorbed in the self. So this, then it says, verse 7, by these and other ways, right? This says mano dushtam, this wicked mind, this misbehaved. I was looking for wicked we have a lot of trigger words in our recovering Western culture, right? But it's this dirty mind, this misbehaved mind, miscreate mind, wicked. I mean, you say like, naughty boy, right? So something or naughty girl. You can use that as it doesn't have like, oh, you're wicked, sinner, It's not that, it can have that level, but it can be, doesn't have to be so heavy, like. We can say, oh, you're a douche-do, you're a little bit naughty. I like little naughty. It's okay, Ananda, my mom said you can. She told some children. He says every day you have to do your homework, and then you have to do your chores and do your sadhana, and then you can be a little douche-do. You can be a little naughty. Now you can go play after that, So douche-do is not. But anyways, so I just wanted just not to get a trigger, like get this wicked mind, like it's like it doesn't need to be that heavy, although these verses are a little heavy. By these and other ways, this wicked mind on the path of illusion mano dushtam asat-patham. We are on the path. Our wicked mind is on the path on the path of falsehood. Asat. I did illusion here. There's no translation. I probably will, because it started with the path, getting the path of truth. It says we have to get off the path of untruth, right? This mind must be gradually controlled by the intelligence. Buddhya yunjita shanaiki. And one's prana should be carefully focused, right? So this is how to control the mind, or how to focus the mind. So proper seat, proper focus, withdraw the mind, meditate upon the Lord's lila in the heart. By this and other methods will eventually we'll go back. There's a few chapters later. There's a great other methods like puja and kirtan and satsang. There's other methods that by this and any other methods to remember God and not forget God. Right, the wicked mind must on the path of untruth must be gradually controlled by the intelligence, and one's prana should be carefully focused. Now it goes again. Now it's describing a little bit more back to the yoga conception. Spreading a proper seat in a pure place and sitting in an easy posture, with body erect, engage in practice. So that's instruction for sadhana. Sitting in proper seat in a pure place, with the body upright and comfortable, with body erect, engage in practice. One should purify the passages of prana, pranasya shodayet margam, by inhaling and retaining and exhaling. Purva, pura, kumbhaka, rechaka, right? This is describing pranayama. And then reversing the process. So this is alom bilom type of practices. It's typical things. And making the mind stuff, the chitta, steady. Chitta yata sthiram, and unwavering, anchalam. So this is a classic Patanjali level type of thing. By pranayama, you can make the chitta steady, right? When a yogi's breath is thus controlled, then the mind is soon freed from disturbance. That's the real purpose. Our mind is not free from disturbance. Just like gold in an air-fanned fire becomes free from impurities. So this is an example that's given in many texts and actually we use pranayama in many different ways, but pranayama is also very purifying to the mind. It's just like when you have that billow that heats a fire in order to like a blacksmith or something like that. You've seen that? You like, honestly, I don't know if anybody's seen one at Knott's Berry Farm, I think, and they show the blacksmiths and they have a bellow thing like that. You get to see, that's what it is, right? The bellows is the fire, and then from that fire they can purify gold, right? The mind can be purified with the bellows of pranayama, right? It's beautiful. Through pranayama, one overcomes faults, dosha. By concentration, one overcomes sins. By withdrawing the mind, pratyahara, one overcomes worldliness. You can see that makes sense, because worldliness is consciousness of the outside world. You withdraw the mind, then you remove worldliness. And by meditation, by dhyana, one overcomes ungodly qualities, unspiritual qualities. Anashvaram gunam. Purpose of meditation. When one's mind is purified by yoga, gazing at the tip of the nose, with full concentration, one should meditate upon the Supreme Lord. So this is just another telling of the yoga system, right? But from the devotional perspective, right? Now with this controlled mind, this purified steady mind, and what do you concentrate on, right? And we concentrate on so many things. We take spiritual principles of mindfulness and things like this, right? Spiritual principles, and we don't concentrate on something. But what do you like? I'm not critiquing mindfulness practices, which are very powerful. Our Guruji also encourages them. It's amazing. I've seen him, like, new boys come to the ashram, right? That have never practiced yoga or meditation. He has them close your eyes, take a breath. When you breathe in, notice that you're breathing in.
When you breathe out, notice that you're breathing out. And you see you're just watching the scene. It's a little 8-year-old kid from a bad family in a bad situation. It's like first time is like noticing he's breathing in, and he's like, and then after he says, "How did you feel?" "Acha, Guruji, you're good." Right? You can see the first step. So I mean, we're not critiquing these practices, right? Right. But with a wicked mind, right? You'll meditate. I mean, we can concentrate our mind and just focus on all the rubbish things our mind normally works on, right? So we're given. So there, the next 20 verses or so, he gives a detailed description of the Lord that one should meditate upon, right? This text. We have our text. We have our deities. We have our forms, our gunas. What our gurus have taught us. If there's some instruction in meditation, right? Then how to concentrate, how to visualize the deity. Like this, right? The point of meditation should be like this. I was going to read. It's about 40 verses, which I won't have time to read. Just a translation of, but it's like example here is meditate on the legs of the Lord, the Creator of all beings, the beginningless being, the legs of which are handsome. In which the handsome hands of Lakshmi, the lotus-eyed mother, adored by Brahma, shampoo, placing them on her lap. Meditate upon the shining thighs of the Lord, which are blue and smooth like ashtika flower. So it's very poetic, describing every aspect of the deity's form, right? So whatever the method is, through mantra or through visualization or through remembrance of a lila, is once the mind has been purified and concentrated. The purpose of all that concentration is to think of God, right? To meditate on God. And I gave just one final verse. At the end of this, there's a transition where it describes the benefits, what happens when one can successfully meditate like this. This is verse 34. One will develop intense love of Bhagavan Hari, right? By meditating on God, one develops intense love. So that intense love, right? Here it says bhava bhakti. Right, so this is another word for like prem bhakti or raga bhakti, right? It says the purpose. If you can meditate upon God, you can somehow or another get this mind to meditate upon God. God is so wonderful that you cannot help have an effect, right? Then the love of God. Sri Ramakrishna describes like the nature of the mind. Our mind or our soul is like a needle, and God is like a big magnet, right? It's the nature of a magnet to draw a needle, right? Okay. Right. So if our mind is not being drawn, or if our soul is not being drawn to the magnet of God, what could be the cause? Swamiji, what could be the cause? Aha, Sri Ramakrishna said there's two things. I'll start with the less obvious. One is that it's far away. Right? If you don't bring a needle near a magnet, you won't see the magnet move, the needle move, right? Right, so that's what do? We have satsangs, we meditate daily, we do japa, we come to the temple. These practices, these and other practices, as he says, are designed to get close to God, right? So that by proximity, these things awaken. The other thing is that if it's Ramakrishna described, if the needle is encrusted with mud, right, then it won't. So you have to wash the mud out. So different types of sadhana bhakti are the purposes of washing the needle, washing the mud from the mind. When that's purified, then automatically it cannot help. He says, thus one will develop intense love of Bhagavan, right? Bhava bhakti of Bhagavan, right? And then the symptoms, the next verse, the next lines are all ecstatic verses. So hopefully in your meditation tomorrow morning, this is what happens. You can post it on Facebook if it happens, with pictures, right? What it says, the heart will melt. Dravyat hridaya. Your heart will melt, right? Hairs stand erect from excessive joy. Your hairs stand on end, right? Utpulaka pramodat. From extreme joy, your hairs stand on end. And tears will flow constantly from your eyes due to longing. Right? It's interesting that usually we cry for all kinds of reasons, right? This is from longing. What's the term here? Kalya. Hair stand. The heart melts. Hair stand on end, and tears flow from the eyes. Right, by thinking of God. Right. Thus overcome the mind, which is acted like a hook, begins to withdraw, and this goes into, like, eventually the next verse it describes, will become completely liberated and attain nirvana, disappear into the self. He uses the language of that type of yoga. Even uses the word nirvana. It extinguishes itself in the self, and the mind gets absorbed. Like, he uses that language. We won't get to those verses. They're important, but not for our immediate point. But he says that the mind, which was a hook, we're using the mind through all these practices, right, as a hook to try to catch God, right? So once you've caught God, the mind, the hook just dissolves and disappears into God. It's a very beautiful. The image is exquisite, right? I think we're probably good in 619. I'll read something here. So the purpose of spiritual disciplines and bhakti yoga is vaidhi bhakti, and vaidhi bhakti is according to the scriptures, according to the guru. So if the guru gave you instructions, right, how to sit, what to chant, how many times, in which condition does one have to sip water, which finger one uses, what finger one doesn't use, all those details, right? How to do pranayama, if maybe how to do worship, right? Or instructions on going on pilgrimage, or going to sadhus and going to satsangs, right? Or us going to the guru for satsang. Well, that is vaidhi bhakti, right? Guru given bhakti, scripture given bhakti, and guru given bhakti is vaidhi bhakti, sadhana bhakti, bhakti yoga. Right, a path of bhakti yoga. But remember, Swami Vivekananda says the bhakti yoga is the path that begins. What is it? Begins.
Continues and
Yeah, begins. Let's see. Sorry. Is a real, genuine search for the Lord. A search beginning, continuing, and ending in love. Right. So it should be done out of love. Right. But sometimes it's not done out of love, right? Sometimes we don't feel it, right? But we're doing it because of love, right? There has to be at least that, right? I remember Bhattacharya Das, he gave an example. His daughter, young girl, and she says, sometimes I love my daughter more than anything. You can imagine a father's love for his daughter. I can only imagine. I don't have children. He says, so sometimes my joy is in bathing her and feeding her and waking her up and putting her to sleep. But sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes you just don't feel it, right? Or sometimes she's not making it easy. It doesn't happen like that. But of course, I bathe her and feed her because of love. So sometimes you feel it. That's when you're in that union experience. But sometimes you do it anyway because that's also love. So we do our spiritual disciplines, even if we're not necessarily, if the hair is tears and heart melting and hair standing erect, right? Because we're doing it for that reason still. It has to be done out of love. And another self-serving moment, reading from my own book. But here it's titled, Making Sense of Our Sadhana. I think originally I titled this in a writing, Musings from the Ashram Roof, because this is something I wrote a letter to somebody from our ashram roof in Allahabad during one of the melas many years ago. We sometimes get confused about what we are supposed to do in our spiritual life. We have ideas about what actions are spiritual and what actions are worldly. This causes confusion and guilt when we do not live up to our self-defined standards. Also sometimes standards of the scriptures and the guru. It's not only self-defined, but by defined standards. But it is not what we do that is spiritual life. It is what we want. This is the thing I was meditating on the roof. It's not what we do that is our spiritual life. It's what we want. It is what we aim at. If loving and serving God is our aim, then this is the beginning of bhakti. Then we will try naturally to adjust our actions to attain our goal. Vaidhi bhakti, right? Sadhana bhakti. Then our work will not be seen as material, but as parts of our spiritual lives. And any lapse in discipline will not be seen as failures, but as part of the struggles to attain our lofty goal. The details of life become steps upon the path itself. The scriptural rules and regulations and our guru-guided disciplines are vitally important, but they are not our spiritual goal. They are in service of our spiritual goal. Right? Love is the goal. God is the goal. Pure love of God is the goal. The heart can never truly rest until this is attained. Only by keeping our focus on this can we make sense of our sadhana, justify our austerities, and digest our shortcomings. Sri Guru Maharaj Ji ki jai, Mahamaya ki jai, Swamiji Maharaj ki jai. Any questions or comments? We have probably no time, but what time is it? We have 7 minutes. Yes.
Clarify a word when you're speaking of Prahalad. You said he went to demon school?
Sorry. He, because he was born, his father was a great demon, who had a school, and the topics taught at their school was business, politics, and diplomacy. Demon topics. He was a demon.
And he was actually, he eventually became king of the demons.
Yeah.
But he was still...
He was a pure devotee.
The demon can be an incredible devotee.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah. Prahlad, yeah. And then his teachers, he'd get in trouble, and then the father would come and ask the teachers, or he asked the boy, he says, "Oh, what did you learn in school today?" "Oh, I learned that Vishnu is the supreme lord of everything, and nothing happens except by his will." Vishnu, he hates Vishnu. Vishnu killed his brother. Right out, you killed my brother. Prepared to die type moment. And then he went to the teachers. "What are you teaching my son?" He said, "We're not teaching him that at all. We're teaching him diplomacy, politics, and business." Right? We're not teaching him this. We would never teach him this. I mean, we'd lose our life teaching him this, right? And again, he'd go back to school, and what did you learn in school today? The same type of thing. And then he says, like, where are you getting this foolishness? I'm getting it. Where do you get the strength to say such stupid things in front of me? He says, the same place you get your strength, Dad, from Vishnu. Right? Because the boy, he only saw that. No matter what they taught him, he heard, the teacher said one thing, and he heard that everything comes from Vishnu. Right? His spiritual consciousness is fully awakened. Right? Pada bhakti, Vaidhi bhakti. So we have to work on it. Thank you. Anything else? Yeah.
What do you mean by melt? The heart melts. Would you elaborate?
I don't know what he meant by it. The heart melt. Well, actually, I just gave a literal translation, right? To probably touch in the translation, he says the stone-like heart, right? Because our heart at present is described as hard-hearted. We're all hard-hearted, right? And you can see here's a sign of hard-heartedness. Thakur said, if we simply say Ram one time, or Hari one time, if streams of tears should come from your eyes, and you should be choked, right? The fact that it doesn't happen because our hearts are still a little hard, right? That's the thing; they haven't fully melted, right? And so, in the story of Hiranyakashipu, since we're mentioning Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu, there's a prayer to Hiranyakashipu. It says that eventually Nrsimhadev ripped Hiranyakashipu open, right? In a ghastly scene, right? But it's described as like his nails. He took the form of a man lion. Most of you know the story, and he ripped the heart open of Hiranyakashipu, right? The demon. He says that his nails were like chisels on the stone-like heart of Hiranyakashipu. So years ago, one of our mentors, he said that we should have soft hearts. So, if we have a knot in our heart, we should just be able to untie it. It shouldn't have to be cut, right? Or like that. But if it needs to be cut, it could be cut. Yeah, the heart should melt. And, it's like if you you can imagine or not. I mean, some people can imagine. You can imagine it, or maybe it's literally true. But if you're deeply in love with somebody, in the material world also, and somebody even mentions their name, you'll smile, because your heart's soft towards that person, right? So it should be infinitely softer towards God. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, we'll leave it there tonight. Right here.
In times where you're having some difficulty with the with the practices, do you have a way of inspiring yourself again and reading from saints, or?
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is that the reason we're doing it should be remembered. Because we forget why we're doing it. It's like, well, it's not working. Well, it's like, well, it's like there's a somebody complained to Holy Mother that you initiated me and I'm chanting your mantra, the mantra you gave me for years, and it's not working. Right? It says it's not working. Right? It says, yeah, I don't get any concentration. Of course, isn't it wonderful when we're chanting mantra and we have concentration? Oh my God, so nice, right? But a concentrated mind for 15 minutes, great. The rest of the day, your mind's not going to be concentrated. The mind's nature is not to be. The mind's nature is to accept and reject. It's constantly doing it. If you can hold it for a little, it's great when it happens, right? But so she says, so of course you're not going to be successful if that's your criteria, right? So Holy Mother said, the purpose of the mantra is not for you to concentrate, because otherwise it's just a mental technique, right? It's like it says, it's working. You don't know what it's doing, but it's doing it. Right, so I think that's how I think. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not great, right? And sometimes when you see when it's not great, sometimes it's because we haven't done it very long. We're not doing it very regularly, right? And so to lift something, if we're not accustomed to lifting something, and you start lifting it, it hurts a little bit, right? The struggle is like, it wasn't always because I'm out of shape. That's why, right? You get in shape a little bit, and sometimes I can see how this could work. So I think remembering the reason we're doing it, and sometimes my Guruji, Bodha Guru Swami Vishnudevananda Saraswati Maharaj, he told me, he says, I practice night and day intensely. I had two things. I had spiritual hunger. I became mad, right, longing for God, right. But also I was scared of my Guru, to disappoint him. He'd be upset if he knew I wasn't practicing. So these two things, he says, I both had spiritual hunger and a healthy fear of disappointing somebody I made who gave me this instruction. So interesting. I remember these. Night and day I became mad, spiritually mad, he would say. Yeah. So he said, in 3 months I became successful. So that's a big thing. Year after, of course he had years as a sadhu wandering, but actually when his guru, he finally met his Paka Guru, right? With 3 months, 3 or 4. He used to 3 months, and he said actually 4 months. There was a transition period of getting the cave and getting his cave right and everything. But if you practice, then his guru, my Guruji said, he gave me a guarantee: if you practice sincerely, you'll be successful. Right? He promised me this. So I was scared because every couple of weeks I'd go see him and give my report. I was scared because sometimes Handi Baba would correct him if he did some mistake. One example, Guruji is mysterious. Our Guruji was a mysterious being, and so he began to develop siddhis, right? And so he'd write down such and such a person will come visit me in the cave, and they'll bring me milk and a blanket. And then the person would come and he'd show the thing. This he was experimenting. Things begin to awaken, right? And Handi Baba got very angry, chastised him, and forbade him to ever do like that, and not only to not to develop these things, to not to talk about these things when they develop, and to hide his spirit, not only to hide his any spiritual or psychic ability, to even hide knowledge. Don't speak what you know unless you need to. Don't go around telling people your spiritual knowledge. Even that he forbade him to do. So he was corrected. That's why I think he had a healthy fear. Comes from. Anyways, Jai Sri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. All right. Okay. Arati and Kirtan. Out this way. We're moving the Lord of the universe. nṛpātmaje yet.
I didn't think I missed it.
Oh. It's going to be Shelby's first time.
Excellent.
So, yes.
Should be a fierce critic.
Om Shri Guruvyo Namah Hari Om Ganadvagramati Gambhavahe Kavim Kavinopavasravastamam Jishtrajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspatana Srimanotabhisarasaranam Shri Manmahagaranavataya Namaha Lakshminarayanabhyam Namaha Om Maheshwarabhyam Namaha Vanniranya Garbha Chaturgundaram Devatavinu Gauravatavinu Grāmya-dharma-nivṛttiś Vāsadavatavinu Santoṣa Sarvabhyo Devibhyo Namaha. Shall we give this a little seat? Sarvamangalamangalyam varenyam varadam shivam narayanam namaskita sarvakarmani gali om ātmavic-caraṇāṁ kriyami swaha om hrim vidhinā shuryami swaha om hrim vidhinā shuryami swaha om hrim klim sarvatattam shuryami swaha vishnu om dar vishnu brahmam param sarapasham subhadivashakiravatam om ātmavic-caraṇārcanam sarvavastam gito vivāja pripundavikakkam Sabhayam Mahakalabayirva Sahita Om Principles of Bhakti Yoga Namaha. Param Principles of Namaha. Kali Namo Namaha Kala Vedava Sahita Krishna Kalikaye Divye Namaha Shri Kalikaye Divye Namaha. Camphor lamp is camphor lamp. It's right there. Camphor? No,
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Om Dipayam 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 Om Vangring Om Gring 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 Ram Padre Mahakala Sahita Om Gring Shimadakshana Kalga Arpite Runtarpiyam Namaha Jai Ma Jai Ma Jai Ma Jai Ma लाल की जय भगवान श्री रामकृष्ण परमहंस देव की जय जगन्माता श्री शारदा देवी की युगाचार्य स्वामी विवेकानंद महाराज जी की पूर्णा तीर्थ रक्षणेश्वर धाम की जय नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव वंदे हर
Very intense, lots of movement, like just so much car journeys.
You can do this one.
We weren't set in one place. Chaitanya was in Kolkata the whole thing, but there's a lot of moving around. Profound. It was very good. So how about was your trip? Was successful?
Yes.
Should I put it in a...
Oh yeah. You made any like structural decisions? And the cleaning was still like they're actively doing stuff.
Sitting on the wall, and attached to me.
I mean, it's huge. Like when I But they cleared it.
Getting that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's gonna be so gorgeous one. Remember, I know I've heard like the last thing I heard is had another trip to the hospital. How's it doing? He's back on track. Because I had another obstruction. And Swami Bhajanananda is back in action. In another way.
She looks nice.
संस्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय नमः। ॐ जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं परपद्मे जीवश्रीतां प्रणमामि।
श्री-हनुमान-चालीसा, श्री-कृष्ण-सरोज, निज-मन-मुकुर-सुधारि, वरदानगुण-विंश-च्युत-कृपा-चारि, बुद्धिः-तनु-जानिके, सुगुरु-पवन-कुमार, बल-बुद्धि-विद्या-देहि हरौ कलेश-विकार, जय हनुमान ज्ञान-विशाल कर्पूरगौरं करुणावतारं संसारसारं भुजगेन्द्रहारं सदावसन्तं निर्यालन्दे भवामि सततं नमामि त्वमेव माता सतता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धु सतता त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्यां त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव हरे राम राम हरे
Not today. You do. You always have a song. Good job.
Jagoma
श्री-बहतारिणी रक्षण काली की
ओम सर्वमंगल मंगले शिवे सर्वार्थ साधिके शरण्ये त्र्यंबके गौरी नारायणी नमोस्तुते सृष्टि स्थिति विनाशानं शक्तिभूते सनातनी गुणाश्रये गुणामयी नारायणी नमोस्तुते शरणागतदीनार्थ परित्राणपरायणे सर्वशक्तिहरे देवी नारायणी नमोस्तुते जय 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 महामयी की जय जय भगवान श्री राम कृष्ण देव की जय जय स्वामी जी महाराज जी की जय जय माँ दक्षिणेश्वरी भवतारिणी दक्षिण काली की जय